Hi, welcome to the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and comment your thoughts and opinions on the stories. Let's get started. Am I the antagonist for kicking my cousin out of my baby's funeral? I, 26F, and my cousin, let's call her Emily, 28F, have always been very close. During our childhood we were inseparable, but then she got married, and we stopped being so close. I was not invited to the wedding, bachelor party, or any other birthday or anything. Me and my husband have also been struggling with being able to conceive, but when we finally got pregnant, I was over the moon. Me and my cousin reconnected in this period, but didn't see each other much. I'll try not to go into too much detail with this, because it breaks my heart to talk about it. When my baby, Stella, was 2 months old, she passed away from sudden infant death syndrome. I went into a horrible depression and couldn't get out of bed for weeks. My husband stood by my side the whole time. He would make me soup, bring me magazines I really like, and would clean and cook around the house. However, I got no comforting messages from Emily or her family. I was a bit hurt, but brushed it off, because I wasn't most worried about her not reaching out to tell me she was sorry my baby passed away. We had a funeral a couple weeks later. When my cousin showed up to the funeral, she told me she was so sorry for my loss and she gave me a hug. I noticed she was holding her hand under her stomach and her stomach had gotten a little bigger since I last saw her. She saw me looking at my stomach, so she said, "Surprise, I'm pregnant." I didn't know what to think about this, so I just stared blankly at her for a second before walking ahead. The whole funeral, all I was doing was crying. It hurt to look anywhere besides my lap, because when I did, the only pictures I had taken of my poor baby were shoved in my face. When I finally calmed down, Emily came over to me. I thought she was gonna say something comforting, or tell me it was gonna be alright like everyone else. But instead, she put her hand on her stomach and popped it out a little. She said something along the lines of, "It breaks my heart to think that the same thing could happen to my little angel. I can't imagine what you're going through. Me and Anthony are so blessed to have a healthy baby so far." Blah blah blah. I was shocked. I started off by telling her my baby didn't die because it was unhealthy. It died from a sickness we couldn't control. And second, she could get TIFU. It took a few minutes, but she left in the end. I'm getting both angry and supportive messages from the family. My husband, Phil, mother-in-law, dad and friends are on my side. But my mother and aunt's whole family told me I overreacted and that it was wrong for me to kick her out of my baby's funeral. Now for the top comments. NTA, so sorry for your loss. If they can't put your husband's needs first at this time, they have no opinion worth hearing. Your cousin sounds awful. Doesn't invite you to any of her life events. You're no longer close, and she finds it appropriate to turn up to a terribly difficult day for you. Spring a pregnancy on you and use your grief to make her feel good. Your family are awful for berating you for what you need. I mean, I kind of don't know what she could have done about the pregnancy. She was obviously visibly pregnant. Had probably waited until 12 weeks to tell anybody. Possibly by that time Op had lost her baby. You really don't want to text someone who just lost a baby that you are pregnant. But I do think she should have tried to wear something baggy or a shawl or something to hide the belly from Opus, and to literally say surprise like it is a happy thing for Op. Yikes. Being like, "Sorry, we are pregnant. I didn't know how to tell you" would have been better, but then putting Op's hand on her belly and talking about how healthy the baby is. OMG. She cannot be the clueless. She was thoughtless and unkind. Unless she has some kind of mental illness or developmental issues. What she said, and it was unforgivable. It was your baby's funeral. You can throw out who you want, and frankly, having her around wasn't making your day any better. Try not to get involved in the ensuing drama. Just say you don't want to talk about it. People who respect you will understand. I'm very sorry for the loss of your baby girl. NTA. First, I'm so sorry for your loss. What you/Sassapy 173 says is so true. Try not to get involved with the drama and these people. People who says stuff like this and don't understand you and don't respect your boundaries. Just don't go there. Again, I'm so sorry. I hope you also have lots of loving, kind and supportive people around you. You deserve better than this. Am I the antagonist for telling my husband he has a negative amount of common sense? My 30th husband, 32 male, has a tendency to do things that really stress me out. So much so that I feel like him constantly coming across as a nag, because I always have to say something to him or correct him. I have a theory that it's because his mom did absolutely everything for him until he was 29. And he never learned any real life skills. Some examples of this are him overloading the dishwasher and breaking dishes as a result. He places raw uncovered meat directly on the shelves of the fridge. He opens boxes of snacks by ripping them so they can't be resealed. There are many others I can list. There is one thing he keeps doing that is sending me over the edge though. He stays up later than me most nights, and after I go to bed he lights every candle we own, turns on 3 different wax burners, then goes to bed with them still going. I've brought it up as a fire hazard many times and he doesn't get it. It's gotten to a point that I have to set an alarm at midnight to make sure I get these things put out, and him sleep deprived as is due to taking care of our baby. I finally snapped a little and woke up my husband to complain. As always, he doesn't understand the fire hazard, and I responded by telling him he has a negative amount of common sense and asked him, is there anything that your mom did teach you? Because you have the life skills of a kindergartner. He said I was bitter because I wasn't loved right by my parents and I was too mean. Then went to sleep on the couch. Was I over the line? Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. Info. What does he do for work? Some of these things demonstrate such an absence of thought that I can't imagine that he could even hold down a job. If he does have a job, he could be weaponizing his incompetence around the house because he's lazy or feels entitled to your emotional labor. I'm not even going to ask if he actually plays an active role in parenting. NTA either way, he sounds infuriating. He does pool maintenance. He didn't get a job until late 2019. He insists that it's not weaponized incompetence and that I'm just uptight. He didn't get a job until he was nearly 30 on top of being dangerously dense. How hot is this guy? Thea sounds like John Hamm's character in 30 Rock or something. I'm not sure there is a level of hot to make this man worth the whole entire marriage. How did you two get married? Was his mother holding a shotgun at your head or something? NTA, and he needs a wake up call fast before he hurts your child with his stupidity. How can an adult not know fire can cause fires? It may not be a fire, but this guy's definitely going to do something dumb enough to get them hurt. Am I the antagonist for not supporting my son anymore because of his new girlfriend? My son is 18 male and we've promised to pay for his college. We gave him a car. My husband owns it though, and we've put some money away for him after he graduates to help get on his feet. And we support him when it comes to food and bills. He moved in with his girlfriend a couple months ago and we hadn't met her. We thought it was a bit weird and fast, but that was all. Presumably, these were 2 teenagers we were talking about. Then we met her. She's 28F. My son is very handsome, but also very much looks like a teenage boy. He's often mistaken for a 16-yo. No, almost 30-yo should be into him. And that's just his appearance. He acts like a teen boy too. As soon as the situation was clear, I told her to leave. My husband and I talked to him and told him she was too old for him and that he was in a bad situation. But he got really defensive and left. We've talked to him multiple times about it and my husband is ready to take action. We told him we wouldn't pay for his education, withhold all his money. We took the car back and stopped giving him cash supporting him. We hate to do this. And I'm not 100% sure we are doing by right thing. Am I the antagonist? Now for the top comments. Now you're not an asshole for wanting to protect him. He's also not an asshole for being in a manipulative, potentially unsafe relationship. Unfortunately, your actions are likely to alienate him and push him closer to her though. Yep. This, and especially at that age, and especially if she's, for lack of a better phrase, putting out NTA op. So you've taken all his support and increased the likelihood that he will become financially dependent on this older woman. You have the right to withdraw funds. Technically, he is an adult. However, By punishing him, you're just going to push him away. If this woman does turn out to be bad news, he won't have you to turn to for help. If he finds himself in a bad situation that he lacks the maturity or resources to get out of, how else are they supposed to go about it? It's not like they are going to increase the amount that they are already giving him. Am I the antagonist for telling my dad that I still hold a grudge for something that happened 10 years ago? My 26F mom passed away at childbirth, so it was pretty much my father, 50 male, and me, with the occasional visits from my grandparents, from both sides. Since I lived with just him, I took on a more masculine style and likings, like one of the boys, but the only boy was my father. I was Rixie, 40 Rex, because I was obsessed with them for years. I had no Barbies, he bought me a few, but I was like ooh, and I had almost zero dresses or skirts. He also did my hair really awful every time. When I was around 12, he began dating this woman called Mariah who had a daughter, 15 at that time, named Stacy. While Mariah was a total sweetheart, Stacy was horrible. She bullied me for not looking like a girl should do, for liking man stuff like cars, bikes and stuff like that. I have to admit that I also didn't have many friends while growing up, neither female or males, so my person was my dad. And as I grew up I got involved with what he liked. To make things short, Stacy would often throw awful comments about me being a boy, a weirdo, etc, and my dad would do these same comments in a less bully way, but they hurt me more because he was confirming that while Stacy was his daughter, I was his son. What broke my heart was that he called Stacy Peach like Mario's princess while I was T-Rex. I did a 180 in my looks at 15. I brought dresses, skirts and dyed part of my hair a sweet pink, which made Stacy laugh at me even more, and my dad was like, whoa, pink, that's for girls. In my 16th birthday, Stacy put black dye in my shampoo and ruined my whole look. I guess it was the stick that broke the camel's back, because I cried so horrible to the point of not breathing, and I told my dad in front of Mariah and Stacy what she had been done all of those years, along with my dad awful remarks and subtly enabling Stacy's awful comments. In the end, he left Mariah and Stacy because it was obvious there was no going back for me after that. He eventually married my now stepmom. When I turned 20, my dad apologized. We talked about it, and a year after that we attended therapy. Until I was 24 I don't like to talk about it. I think it broke my relationship with my dad in a way we will never be able to fix. I know he doesn't have my back. Yesterday, while talking he tried to joke about it, and I said that I didn't want to remember it because I'll never forgive him for joining Stacy in her bullying. He said it couldn't be possible, that I'm still holding a grudge. I say I am, and that I always will, because he absolutely broke my heart and confidence. He tried to argue, but my stepmom said that he needed to let go because my feelings are my feelings. I still cry when I remember it, but he says I'm an R because he left them and made amends with me. Now for the top comments. NTA, I like your new stepmom. She's absolutely right that your dad needs to accept that he did permanent damage to the relationship. Pushing you to let it go is just throwing salt on your wounds. All children with stepmoms should be lucky enough to have a stepmom like this. If there is any chance that Op's dad will realize the reality of his relationship with his daughter, I'm sure stepmom will support him and give him a loving shove should he get stuck in self-pity. Op, my father and I have had our share of relationship problems. There were a couple years I was sure his love for me wavered. He was always angry during that time, and I was sure it was all my fault. He gave me my first panic attack. My health doesn't allow it right now, but we talked at least every other day on the phone until recently, sometimes for a couple hours. I have my father again, and we are tighter than ever. I was a major tomboy too. It took time and a lot of patience to get here. We both wanted it to get better though, and that's why we succeeded. Even when we'd stumble, we weren't willing to give up. I know you went to therapy for quite some time, but I'd like to encourage you to look into it again. Fixing your current relationship with your dad isn't the reason I say this either. Reading how you still cry anytime you think of that period in your life is heartbreaking. I know those scars are deep, and that they'll never completely heal. but there is still healing to be done. You shouldn't have to endure that level of emotional hardship for the next 10, 20, 30, or 40 years even. I would hope a good therapist can lessen the pain of that trauma. Maybe, in time, you and your father will find a path back to a strong and happy relationship. Right now though, you need to focus on you. You don't have to forgive. And you don't have to forget. I only hope for your tears to not come as often. NTA, everyone heals at different rates. You might get past this one day where remembering won't trigger you pain anymore, but today's not that day, and that's absolutely okay. You decide when you are ready to let the pain go, not your dad. Yes, he's made amends and married a woman who seems to really have you back this time, but still your pain is yours to keep and release when you are ready. You can have a great future with your dad and stepmom and never want to visit that incident in your past again. That's your choice to make, and your dad needs to accept that. Sounds like your stepmom gets it, so if it's too hard to have this conversation with your dad, you can ask her to explain it to him. Am I the antagonist for bragging about me being multilingual when my fiance made fun of my accent? Sorry, English isn't my first language. So I F26 been with my fiance male 26 for 2 years and 6 months ago moved to his home country. I stayed at home for 3 months self-learning Swedish and finally now I'm comfortable to speak it around, and I understand conversations and stuff. At work everyone speaks English, but now during social gatherings with family and friends I'm trying to be less shy and speak up, even if my Sweden is broken. We were having an after work with my fiance and his colleagues and I mispronounced a word, and he made a joke she is a work in progress. Then I made another mistake, and he said, well, should we switch to English so you won't keep embarrassing yourself? And all his colleagues laughed. I got annoyed and answered in Swedish, well, when you manage to speak 7 languages like I do, you will be allowed to make fun of me. At least I'm trying. Now excuse me, and I left without saying goodbye to anyone. So that's when I think I was rude and kinda cocky. My fiance got home saying I humiliated him and made a fool of myself in front of his colleagues. So am I the R? Should I have played along? Edit. Him trying to reply to most comments. I just want to thank you for all the positive and good input. I really needed it. Thank you so much. Now for the top comments. NTA. He humiliated you and expected you to sit there and take it? He could have asked if you would be more comfortable if they all switched to English instead of insulting you with the suggestion. So, really? He humiliated himself when his partner wouldn't accept being treated like a jerk by him. I kept scrolling down until I found the comment that said he humiliated himself. Because that's what he did. You simply pointed it out. Before you moved to Sweden, did you ever make fun of his English language ability/accent? If you did, turnabout is fair play. And if you didn't, he's just an R. Do you know what a foreign accent is? It's a sign of bravery. Amy Chua, NTA. That was really a harsh of him. Honestly speaking, another language does take bravery. I tried learning Spanish, and I cannot force myself to speak it due to my whack pronunciations. Am I the antagonist for banning my friends from my apartment? I currently have my own place and live alone, so I think I learned to adjust and love the solidarity. I'm young 20 SF and most people my age don't have their own place and still live with their families. This will be relevant later. I have a pretty decently sized friend group and most of them are understanding of the fact I'm pretty introverted. I can't handle hanging out with people after 3-4 hours and start to feel drained and depleted. Anyways, I've begun to start allowing people over my place to hang out, which is huge. I've always been very nervous to allow company into my space because I'm not used to it. The thing is, my friends now constantly ask to come over. At first I said yes, but I found out it's much harder to organically end a hangout when the person is in your place. They will stay for hours on end and I live in a 1-bedroom, so to say I feel drained by the end is an understatement. Another thing is I'm also very organized and particular with my apartment. I take my shoes off. I hate mess in my space. I don't wear my outside clothes on my bed. My friends constantly forget to take their shoes off, sit on my bed, don't clean up after themselves. I used to cook for them whenever any of them would show up, but they would leave such a huge mess I had to stop. which they were annoyed about. I can't stand it. I wouldn't mind if they only stayed an hour to 3 hours tops, but it always is difficult getting them out. Recently I stopped allowing them over because the last few times they insisted on sleeping over and wouldn't leave. I felt like my head was going to explode from how overwhelmed I was. BTW, I have explained this to them, which I will elaborate on soon. They are mad at me, saying that they always invite me to their place and welcome me whenever. When I tried setting boundaries before banning them completely, they would get mad and say that I live on my own and get enough space, and most of them live with 5+ people. I understand this, but I worked very hard to have my own place, and to be honest, I didn't have a choice nor wanted to live alone originally. But it's been years I've been on my own, and adjusting to constantly having people around is overwhelming. I've just given them so many chances, but each time I invite them over I always feel drained and stressed, and it's impacting me a lot. Now for the top comments. NTA, it sounds like your friends want to use your place as their hangout, and in so doing, are being rude house guests and violating your boundaries. And real friends would bring over food, help in the kitchen and clean up as a thank you to the host. You know, be respectful so they get invited back. NTA, they are being bad guests and bad friends. Who TF refuses to leave when asked. My head would explode. Stop inviting them. Enjoy your space. I'm so envious. If they show up without an invitation, say sorry, I can't have you over now. You don't owe them the space you work hard for, that they don't respect.